So today we're going to talk about auditioning. That was a really a sore subject for me when I first started out. I didn't have a lot of practice auditioning, and I guess because I started acting in college, a lot of things I was cast in were through class. So a lot of stuff at that stage I didn't need to audition for. So that's one of the things that I missed during my training as an actor and my during college time. I was mainly focusing on radio, television, and editing. And I started acting also because I loved that side of the camera too, being behind it and in front of it. So I loved all aspects of it. But the thing of it is, I didn't do too much auditioning outside of projects that I worked on in the university. So I didn't have initially as much training on auditioning as I wish I had. And that's one of the reasons I'm doing this video. Because if you guys start practicing from the very beginning, if you're a new actor, if you're an actor who started and is struggling with auditions, taking audition classes is something that can really help. Again, if you're taking any classes, make sure you want to vet the teacher. You want to get referrals, direct referrals from people who have taken the class and people who have had experiences, good or bad. And nowadays with Google, you can use Yelp. You can try to reach out to people and get, by email and find out their true experiences. Maybe they didn't want to write something online, but you want to reach out. Do your research. Don't just take the first teacher that comes along. But the real focus of this video is start auditioning locally, right where you are. Locally, often anywhere. It doesn't matter where you are. So start auditioning. Now let's talk about the first topic here. Let me put this mouse down because I think that's making me lose my focus for a moment. I got a lot of things to talk to you guys about and I want to get through them. So let's say here, stop waiting, start auditioning. You don't need an agent to audition. You need Wi-Fi and the guts to show up. Start anywhere you are. You can do it. So that's the first topic I want to talk about a little bit about. So nowadays, you got a lot of online casting. And if you look for productions in your area, it doesn't matter. You don't need an agent. You don't need a manager to start auditioning for these projects I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who are doing short films, people who are doing student films. That's going to be my next topic. But just start auditioning, no matter what project it is. If they invite you in for an audition, and be safe though, be safe about it. Don't go to hotels to audition. Don't go to people's homes to audition by yourself. Take a friend with you. I want you guys to be safe out there because when you're working on project with people you don't know, there is a chance of, something not above board. So keep yourself safe. Let people know where you're going. And I always recommend women bring somebody with you if you're going to an audition, even if it's in a facility, just be safe, be safe. That's what I want to say too before I start telling you just to go out there and start auditioning. But be smart also too. Find out who you're going to meet. Look those people up to see who they are, to see if they really are students. Look those people up to see if they say they've made films. Look them up to see if you can see some of the films they made. But again, you want to get out there and you want to start auditioning. Even if you decide not to take the role. That's another little topic I want to talk about right within this section. Sometimes I'll do that. I'll audition for roles if I'm exactly right for the role, and even if it's a no-pay role. I do it for the practice. If I haven't been out on any union auditions in a long time, it's great practice. I'll submit to something, and most of the time when I submit to projects that are non-union, or they'll see my background and they'll call me in and I'll do the reading. I'll look at the sides in the audition and I'll do the reading. A lot of times now it's remote, so it's not such a big deal. And again, it's good practice. You want to get over that hump of being stuck on auditions, being, blocked by doing auditions. Auditions, like I learned over my career, and it took me a long time to learn it. It wasn't something that I learned in the first 10 years or even the first 20 years, that the real job is auditioning. Because once you're on the set and you have the part, all those nerves of auditioning go away. You don't even think about that anymore. You focus, at that stage, you focus on the character and you focus on the real enjoyment and the reason you're trying to be an actor or an actress so that you can deliver the part believably and that the audience can believe you and enjoy your entertainment that you're giving them. So don't worry about after the fact of the audition. You want to get to the point where the audition is almost one of the most main parts. The first hurdle is they saw your picture and resume and they called you in. And then the next one is the audition. So you're going to prepare for the audition on your own and you're going to go on there and do your best. And one little key to audition, which is something else that took me a long time to learn. I'm planning on doing a series of videos, which I might start next week with the very first one, going through some of the books that helped me as a beginning actor. Now, some of these books are really old, and you can get them on Amazon, and they're still valuable. The information in these books are really valuable because they're specific. Like the one I'm going to probably do my first topic on is auditioning. A nice book written all about auditioning and being your real self, because that's all you can be. You know, if there's certain elements to the character, you can sprinkle those on top. But what's going to make you stand out is being yourself and being natural and what you bring to the character. Now, if they cast you in the role, then they may have some changes that have to be made because it has to fit the script. But during your audition process, you're going to show them the best of you, what you can deliver, because you have to understand that you are all you can really deliver. So if you're delivering your real self and it's believable, that might get you the role. So that's just talking about auditioning, a little bit of details, which I said I'm going to talk about later when I focus on one of my favorite books about auditioning. But again, start auditioning. Go out for these roles, even if they're student films. I've been a SAG actor for over 34 years, and sometimes I'll do high school student projects. I've had a high school student who was in a film with me. We did a SAG film a few years. We did a SAG film a few years ago, and then out of the blue, he sent me an email and asked me if I'd be willing to come and act in a role and help him out on one of his student films, and I was happy to do it. I did a quick little audition for him and did the role. It was only a couple of hours, but it really helped him out. He was happy. He was a good kid, and you do stuff like that. You're helping people, and you're also helping yourself. You're putting yourself in situations where you can express your art, where you can practice, where you can rehearse, and you can do it in a process that's being used, and you'll be able to see your own feedback. But anyway, audition, 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 and get that practice auditioning. Number two, I'm going to talk about student films. They are a hidden gold mine. I've done a number of student films over the years, and the first thing I want to say, though, is that make sure you make a connection at the very beginning if a student hires you. You want to get their personal email and tell them up front. I want to make sure that I can get in touch with you so I can get a copy of this footage. The reason I'm doing this for you for free is because I want the footage for my reel. So you be upfront with them and tell them you need a way to get in touch with them. You get their email, you get a physical address if possible, because students, unfortunately, and I don't know why, they're notorious for not giving the actor a copy of their footage once it's done. So you as new actors, you don't want to be sitting around like me, 30 years later talking about stories. Oh, I did this really good scene for this student, and he never gave me the footage. So make sure you're able to track them down and tell them. Even if you haven't edited it, I would take the raw footage because I can just use the part that pertained to me, what I did in your project. So get that up front. But again, student projects are a real great place to practice because they have a full crew. They have, most of the time they're going to have everything. Because they're learning. They're going to have everything that's necessary for a film shoot. So it's a good way to rehearse. It's a good way to try out new material. It's a new way to try out new characters. And when you look at the script, you might find something that will be useful for your acting reel. And so student films are highly recommended to go out there and practice. Again, auditioning for them and then actually doing the shoot. Great practice. Community theater is still acting. A lot of people look down on community theater, but I don't. One of my first roles when I was in college in Maryland was at a local community theater. Now, again, I didn't have to audition for the role because I think one of my instructors was involved with the production. And so he recommended me. And then I was cast in the role. And it was a really great experience. I hadn't done any community theater. I had done theater at college, in the college theater program. But out in the community, it was kind of different because you just have people coming in who know the theater, who enjoy the theater, who like going to theater. And it was in Maryland, so it was in Baltimore, Maryland, so it wasn't like, off Broadway. But they had a nice community theater, very professional. It had been around for years. Alder Aldridge Theater, I think it was called. And it was a great experience for me. The show ran for a month and a half. And my part was a small part, but it was pretty good. I was in like 4 or 5 scenes. And one thing about my part, I had to play a Nigerian student. And little side story was that prompted me. I had a Nigerian student in one of my classes, and all this is before the internet. So there was no going to the internet and looking up accents and trying to mimic them. Just so happened, right before I was cast in the role, I started a class, and I had a Nigerian student in my class, and he always asked questions, long drawn out questions. And I brought a little micro cassette in one day once I knew I was doing that role, and I taped his questions. And that day was a nice talkative day for him and was helpful for me. So I taped all of his questions, and that's how I learned to do my Nigerian accent. Because he was always asking questions of the professor, wanting to know more details. He was a good student, but he was very interested and very inquisitive. So he would always ask multiple questions. And that would lead me to believe that I could tape him and I could study those tapes and I could learn and perfect my accent for Nigerian. So that's how I learned my Nigerian accent. And I still have it, 40 years later, and I still use it, still gets me roles. It got me a pretty good role when I first got to Hollywood. It was one of my favorite auditioning and then, my auditioning experience, because from that point when I was in the audition, it was probably like 15 or 20 people deciding who was going to get cast. I think I went on one first audition, the initial audition, and this was before self-tape. There was no self-tape back then. So I went to the first audition, and then I went to the callback. And there was a lot of people in there, 15 or 20 people trying to make the decision of who they were going to hire. And when I did that accent, 3 or 4 of the casting people started smiling. One was like, verbally excited by my performance. And that's a great feeling. That's a great feeling. And I guess that's why actors still do theater, because you like that audience feedback. And that's why I said the other one, doing community theater. You get that feedback from the audience. You don't get that from film acting, or television, because there's usually no audience there. But that real-time feedback from the audience it's lovely. It's something that actors live for. That's why so many make a career in the theater. But again, community theater is a great place for you to get on stage and learn. Theater actors are really strong because you have to learn on your feet. You have to be able to recover if you make a mistake. If your partner makes a mistake, you have to learn to keep going. You can't just say, cut, can we start that over again? You just keep going. Let's see, independent films, crash course in filmmaking. So independent films are great also. But again, make sure you check the people out as much as possible. Meet with them in advance. Find out who they are, what they're doing, what their plans are. Usually independent filmmakers are friendly. They're willing to talk if they're considering you for a role. So kind of find out what they're doing, but they're a great way to get experience. A lot of times on independent films, you'll end up doing a lot of stuff, providing your wardrobe, your own makeup. You'll be doing your own stunts. So you're going to learn a lot. And it's going to put you in a real environment where you can practice your acting skill that will be useful for you as you continue to move up in this business. I always recommend people do independent films. I did a number of videos so far on doing independent films, so I'm going to kind of edit myself here. But as an actor, audition for independent films, and wherever you are in the country, it doesn't matter. Don't think you have to come out here to Los Angeles. Don't think you have to go to New York. Don't think you have to be in Georgia. None of that is true. There are people doing projects mostly wherever you are. It might be hard to find them. And if you look on Craigslist, be careful. Be careful. A lot of scams on Craigslist. But it's a good place to actually find people. You have to do extra vetting with people on Craigslist, verify what they tell you, and but you can find projects there. No matter where you are, you can find projects there. Again, you can find projects through community theater. You can find student films. You can go to the local university, go to the local high school, go to the local 2-year college. Find out if they have a theater program. Find out if they have a film and television program. Volunteer. So there's a lot of ways that you can do work and audition right where you are. So independent films, we talked about that. It's about experience, not exposure. So if you're doing independent films, if you're doing local theater, at this stage, you're just starting. Again, no matter what age you are, you could be starting as, 15, 16, 17, whatever. If you're younger, you're going to have your parents with you anyway, and you definitely should, because this is a business and you don't know everybody in the business. And there's stories, terrible stories, I'm not going to get into those, about kids getting into problems with projects, but usually you're going to have your parents there with you to back you up. But I'm talking about mainly adults. No matter what age you are and you're getting into this business, it's about experience, not exposure. You want more time in front of the camera. Even if you're auditioning, you want to send those self-tapes out and hopefully get cast. Even if you decide later, once you read the script, that, nah, this is not for me. So I do that a lot too, even at my age. Like I said earlier, sometimes I'll see a role for an independent film or a short and I'm not doing anything, and I'll submit to it and they'll ask me to audition. I'll do the audition, and then either beforehand I'll read the script if they give me the full script, and then I can make that decision. Is this something I would want to be involved in? But again, practice auditioning. Practice every opportunity you get. Do the audition. Even if you decide not to do the role, it's going to help you. It's going to make you more relaxed in front of the camera. It's going to make you able to experience different roles and see where your weaknesses and strengths are. And push yourself. Push yourself. Even do roles that you may not think you might be right for. If they ask you to audition, go ahead and do the audition. It's not going to hurt. You're stretching that acting muscle. Let me scroll up a little bit here. This is an interesting one. Say yes to weird projects within reason. Now, I've done a bunch of these out here in Los Angeles, and I do enjoy them. And unfortunately, a lot of those I never got copies for. And when we're talking about weird projects, sometimes you're going to get filmmakers who don't want to have a script. They want to shoot off of maybe an outline, or they want to do an improvisational film. Now, I like it because myself, I put my filmmaker hat on. I take my actor hat off, put my filmmaker hat on. And from a filmmaker's point of view, it's fun because you're not worrying about anybody learning their lines. No one's going to not know their lines because they're making them up right there on the spot. So it's fun. It's a quick way to get a film made. And I also recommend that you do that yourself as far as being an actor. Get a group of friends together and do an improv short film. But acting in someone else's improv short film, and that's why I say within reason, is because you want to find out what they want you to do. You don't want to be involved in anything that's too weird, and that will come back to haunt you when you become a successful actor. So don't get drawn off into doing stuff that's crazy or stuff that's, inappropriate, just because you want to get in front of the camera and show your acting skills, because that stuff can come back to haunt you. There's many stories out there about actors who became successful, and some of the low budget crap they did came back to haunt them. I don't want that to happen to you. So avoid projects that are too crazy. But I also like the improvisational stuff that some students do. So sometimes I do get involved with that, and it's fun. It's kind of like doing improv at an improv theater where you're just, if someone says this, you say that. If someone does this, you do that. It could be that crazy. It could be, what's that Salvador Dali abstract films. So you'll see a lot of those projects. And if you want to try one out, I say again, be careful. Try to vet the people as much as possible and meet them in person if you can in advance, and see if you click with them. See if something seems weird. And if something seems weird, walk away. Walk away. If you feel uncomfortable, walk away. Don't try to be nice. Don't worry about hurting their feelings. Make up some excuse. I've done that in the past many times. And a great thing for actors is that, oh, I just got cast in a commercial, I won't be available. But don't wait until the last minute. Tell them that right up front. That you're no longer interested in the project, or you're not available, or you have to work. But vet them. Basically, that's what I'm saying. Vet them. Find out who they are, what stuff they've done, and if this is something that might interest you. Okay, let's go on to the next one, which is audition everywhere you can. There might be a church play. There might be a college. Again, Craigslist, always in parentheses. Be careful, please, please. There's a lot of dangerous people on Craigslist, but there's a lot of good things on there too. I run projects on Craigslist sometimes, from time to time, when I'm looking for an actor. When I was heavily into my video production for my company on web television, we would always find actors on Craigslist. And we'd be right up front with them. We'd tell them how much they were being paid. We'd tell them it was a non-union shoot for industrial project, for business training. Most of our stuff for training or promotional stuff for businesses. So it wasn't any fancy theatrical acting. It was, commercials basically, but to teach somebody something that the business wanted to potentially teach their employees how to do something. New task, new procedures, that kind of stuff. Industrial video. That used to be a big thing. It still is now, but that's where I found a lot of my actors for industrials on Craigslist. And you'll be surprised at how many legitimate offers are out there. You could, like I said, you can do a college, you can do a church play, colleges. There's a lot of places where you can find to audition. And again, if you audition for it and once you see the full script and you decide, nah, this is not for me, then tell them, be honest, be upfront. Don't wait till the last minute. Don't just ghost them or not show up. Be professional. The great thing nowadays, you don't have to talk to them in person. You have email, you have text. Shoot them an email, shoot them a text. Let them know clearly. There's no way they're not going to get an email and they're not going to get the text. So you make them known that you're no longer available for the project. And you don't have to say why. You don't have to get into the details. Many times I'll go for an audition for something on Craigslist or something that I find online, and the part looks perfect for me. It's the right age, it's the right guy, sometimes it's even the right height. I'm pretty tall. And then when I get the script, it's a character that I wouldn't want to portray. I'm not going to get into that now, but there are a lot of characters that I personally won't do. So you have to think about that too in your mind before you even start auditioning, especially for non-union projects and what we're talking about here, projects to learn, projects to practice your auditioning skills. You want to decide, what is my line? What line won't I cross? What won't I do? So you'll know in advance, men and women, but it's particularly women. You want to realize what they want you to do in the role. You want everything to be written in the script that they want you to do, so you know in advance. And if you have any questions, ask them. And if they seem shaky about saying, oh, for instance, is there nudity in this project? And they say, well, we haven't decided yet. Boom, you're out of there. You're out of there. Unless that's something that you're comfortable with. But most of the time, even a project like that, even if you're comfortable with it, if they don't have the courage or the upfrontness, whatever you want to call it, to write down in their script what happens, then you don't want to be involved with that project because you can't trust them. You don't know what they might do with it once it's edited. So be careful, be careful out there. That's why I always say with Craigslist, I always have that little caveat. I always have parentheses around Craigslist. Be careful of the projects you find there. And I'm not saying not to use Craigslist because I use it all the time. I cast people. I've been casting some pretty good jobs there. I found some paying jobs. I found clients on Craigslist for my video production business. So you just got to be careful with it. So also too, another thing you'll get from auditioning for all types of projects is you'll build up rejection resilience. Because from being on both sides of the table, there's something really important I want to tell you right now about that. Building up resilience to rejection, even from the auditioning level. They decide, they don't want you, whatever. And, maybe you're auditioning and you don't hear anything. And you'll think, oh, that was I thought that performance was really good, that self-tape I sent in. You never know. There's so, and I'm not exaggerating, there's so many reasons that one actor gets chosen over another. It's just unbelievable. And just on my point of view, sometimes I've chosen actors or actresses because of their height. I've chosen actors or actresses because of their weight, hair color, eye color. It gets that petty. It really does. Sometimes you have two actors and they're both turned in a great performance on the audition. Maybe you had them both on a callback and they both turned in a great performance on the callback. So then you got to start looking at what I call, physical things. Actually, as a producer and when I'm doing casting as a director, no, you never say that stuff to the actors because at that stage, it's very minor things. It's very minor reasons. And sometimes it comes down to your personality. Once they meet you, if you seem, and a lot of times, like I said, I've done over the years, I've done a lot of micro budget and no budget feature films, some with little budgets, some with bigger budgets, but you'll get actors that will come in and they have an attitude. And I never get it because I don't understand. I'm open. I'm not a person that's going to tell you, okay, yeah, we're doing this for Sony Pictures and it's going to be a full full-fledged production, makeup, hair, wardrobe, special effects. You know, we're gonna have graphics edited in at the end, special effects editing, you know, all that. No, I tell you the truth about what I'm doing, and hopefully you'll be able to get that truth from someone you audition for, so you know up front what they're doing. But as far as the rejection goes, you may really want the role, but you need to build up that resilience to, you know, even the minor roles, even the big roles. You're going to get rejected for reasons that are completely out of your hands. Completely. There's no way you can know why, and you never know why. And you need to build up resilience and just move on to the next one, move on to the next one. And sometimes even for me, after doing it 35, 40 years, especially when I'm really right for the role, I think about it and then I push it out of my mind. But it creeps back in, but you have to realize there could be hundreds of reasons why I didn't get the role. Maybe somebody's friend is going to get the role. And sometimes it's so funny because I'll see projects on television and my wife and I were watching a movie or something, and it just happened a couple of weeks ago. Oh, it happened less than a week ago. I was watching some movie and it was really good, series, and it was really good. And then the dialogue started sounding familiar to me. And I was like, oh, that's the role I had auditioned for. And then you see that the character, I'm a black male, and you see the character is a Caucasian male that's probably like 30 years older than I am. So you realize, oh yeah, okay, they went a different way. You know, it makes it feel a little bit better, but it's something that, you know, you got to get used to. And just let it go. Go on to the next one. Go on to the next one. Because if you want to make a career about this, you can't start, you know, getting obsessed with every little rejection. You need to start brushing it off. It's hard at the beginning, but as you do more, and I can't even count. Okay, I'll just focus to when I was in Atlanta. I was in Atlanta. I was in Atlanta, Georgia. I was in Georgia, a small town in Georgia, for 2 years, a couple of years ago on an assignment. And the real reason there, because I wanted to try out their acting market. So I went there for two reasons. I got a contract for video production, but also I was able to land one of the top agents in Georgia, and it was fantastic. I wish they would represent me everywhere, but they could only represent, their market is Georgia. And they were great. Houghton Talent Agency, if you're out there. Houghton Talent Agency. Best agents I ever had. I even told them they're the best agent I've had, and I've been doing this for over 30 years. But they got me out on everything. I was on so many auditions, I could not believe it. And, you know, I ended up booking 5 or 6 union jobs, and that was great. But I literally was probably the first year, it might have been 150 to 200 self-tapes. The next year was about, you know, 150 self-tapes. And these weren't just one-line speaking roles. These were real meaty roles that could have propelled me up that next level, which I've never been able to get up. But I'm a character actor, and I've always been trying to, you know, move up to that next level of a consistent working actor. And Georgia, if I had stayed there longer, I think that would have done it for me, because it was so many auditions. But the reason I'm telling you this is because you go on, through your career, you're gonna go on hundreds of auditions. So don't start getting obsessed when you don't get one. Even if you think you're perfect for it, you never know why. Okay, so let's see. Build your resume, not your ego. So you want to do, if you're just starting out, you probably don't have that much work on your resume. You might have some stuff from depending on how young you are, you might have some stuff from high school or college, but you wanna start getting into the, even if it's non-union, you want to start getting into the world of real acting where, you know, it's not high school or it's not college, it's out there in paid or unpaid. Because once it's on your resume and you do the job and you have a copy of it, you made sure you stayed in connection with them and you got a copy of it, and you have proof that you've done it, and you can show it if necessary. That's always the best of both worlds. But you want to build up that resume with legitimate work. So that's one of the reasons to continue to audition. Continue to get those auditions under your belt and book those jobs.